weekly 30/30 trading list. We're finding the best momentum companies on the ASX and identifying those that are set to run. Gary Glover's been through the list, selected his favourites and is ready to walk us through it. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm great, Chris.
So the list, we've had the market roaring ahead, keeps on pushing higher and higher. How's the list looking this week?
Look, this is looking not too bad there. I did struggle to find, like some weeks there's tons of opportunity. Other time there's sort of limited there. I'd probably say this time there's probably limited there. Maybe because we've been running for a bit, so we're sort of we've had a lot of triggers there. So we're probably getting some late, I guess, some of the late bloomers, as we say, to the party there. Yeah.
Right. So Johnny come latelys coming to the party nice and late. No doubt that momentum list has probably still had some firing. As you said, the market's been roaring and consistently going up and up and up. Are there some good, strong runners in there that we can look at as examples of market leaders?
So look on the some strong stocks here, sort of like number one out of our sort of momentum. So our quality momentum stocks there is Winsome Resources, which has been pretty robust here. And even this little this consolidation there, Chris, as well. So that's pretty strong move, pretty good volume. Had a bit of a breather in here. Had a bit of a wind up there, but I thought maybe this looks a little bit, the volume's coming a bit late here, but again, it's sort of consolidated and, now it's sort of looking positive again there. You're a bit late to the party here, so you probably got to keep it pretty tight, but still looking pretty positive. And as we know in the past there, these sort of, the leaders continue to lead and often keep running much further, everyone thinks as well. Number two, THL. This is sort of a new stock there. Tourism Holdings there. I normally wouldn't bring up a new stock like this on the list, but I just think this is actually one to keep an eye on there. Little float there, right? Sort of type of sector at the moment. Obviously, travel, tourism's definitely on the fly there. So this is sort of definitely one to watch there. Number three on the list was Mount Gibson, which is had a pretty decent move. I think obviously iron ore has been a bit of a tear, so all those stocks have moved pretty heavy there. So they've all had a pretty decent move there. I think Silex and Warrego 4 and 5. First sort of interesting one I saw was Nuix, which again sort of had this nice congestion pattern here, and then eventually we sort of started to break up out of this here. So if we're sort of going to trade these things here, I think you sort of need to, just because they're often, there's plenty of these sort of stocks that look like this and then never get going. You really want to be breaking through there. So you need to sort of see a bit of a building process, maybe some congestion, and then you want to sort of see some volume come in and really break above the high there. I wouldn't be touching anything until I saw what I call like a little B wave break there. So this has had a nice little break out of here, a nice move.
So that B wave break that you're talking about, is that sort of the late November? You've had a high after that big surge, big volume, comes back, sits on the 50-day moving average, congests, and then when it gets running again, is that the B wave break?
Yeah, look, you can see there's a little congestion there, so it looks sort of potentially constructive in there, but so many of those sort of fail as well. So I think even if you're drawing trend lines across here, you just want to sort of see a break above those sort of highs there. So you'd be wanting to sort of see a move here. This sort of day here might have got you interested. The volume was up a little bit, but then we sort of did break there. So me personally, I wouldn't trade any of these stocks until I saw a break here, just because I think more than, I'd say 2/3, 3/4 probably fail, don't even break. And you can kind of you can end up buying these things early and trying to get, everyone's always trying to get in early before the pivot, but then if you get in too early, it doesn't pivot. So it ends up sort of failing there and then meandering back, and it might just do this, might just sort of meander back here. So and this can fail here. So this was one here where we actually did get a move here, and then it didn't go on, Chris. Yeah. So I mean, if I was going to buy that, I would have to make that low of the day there, so 77. That would have to be my stop. So if, as soon as it break below, as soon as it didn't go on with it, start congesting underneath, I would have got a bit nervous there. I wouldn't want to see it go below there, which is what it did here. So they can still fail here, but this is the earliest that I'll be looking at as some sort of B wave break there. So I've seen a few of those things there. I think Cettire was on the list as well, which, you know, if you remember Cettire, I think 360, MP1, all our biotech stocks, some of our sort of healthcare stocks, they were the sort of leaders there originally.
You're talking back in October lows, are you?
That's right. So all those sort of early stocks here have been the ones that have been sort of the strong here. So even Cettire, which I think is pretty, I'd probably call this more of a riskier sort of stock here. You know, that was making a high low and breaking out in October, while the market was finding a low here. So it was leading, had a decent move. It's had a pullback. Again, just probably come back and sat on top of the old high there, and then gone again. So the volumes aren't awesome there, but one thing we know about these leaders, they just continue to lead here. So this will be interesting here. We'll probably hit the old high. Might like now you want to see some contraction there. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be long here. I'd just be wanting to, you know, this should contract back in the range. If this is going to set up again, it'll contract like this, or, you know, contract under the high, and just sort of build here. Ideally, you want to sort of see something tight and then pop through again. So a few things have run pretty hard here. I'd just be careful sort of chasing stuff here at the moment, just because it is pretty hot. SmartPay. So this is sort of one that I would have been reluctant to trade just on the fundamentals there. But after that little congestion breather there, no volume in there, it's popped up and it's continued to keep going there. Like we highlighted this last week. In terms of leading stocks here, I don't see. I think this is one of the strongest stocks on the board on Clinuvel. So the biotech there is sort of, you have to remember that's the sort of market lows here. That's making, you know, that stage we'd sort of had maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 high lows. Then we're breaking up here. Just, you know, no swing low broken here. So sometimes just looking at, you know, just high lows, high low, high low is very constructive here. This little congestion there underneath the high there, it's like your little cup and handle in there. And once you break through there, that's when it didn't look back here. So, you know, looking at 22 there, we're up to sort of $26, $27 here. So again, this is sort of I think all those leading stocks there, you know, PME, Pro Medicus has been strong. PolyNovo was the other one that we sort of suggested there a while back. You know, look at that, sort of ran to the high, cooled underneath there. So this is what you want to sort of see Cettire do, have a little, you know, little 3-wave cool off and then start to edge again. And then if it does that, that's what you're looking for. So this little cup and handle there, that's the sort of the setup you want to see. So go back, retest the high, just congest under it, don't come back nice and shallow, and then start to get going again. So those are sort of one of the setups that we should be trying to look for. AIS, Aeris Resources look pretty interesting here, just because we've sort of had a nice little break off the low there. Wouldn't say it's a false break, just because it did go a little bit further there and have spent 3 or 4 days down there. I like a sort of false break to be maybe 1 or 3 days, at the low. Any more than that, I think it's a bit long. But yeah, still had a nice move out of there. Nice little congestion now. Probably a little VCP in there, Chris. So first leg, second leg, tighten up, and then it squares off here. And then as soon as we break our B wave, we're off. So again, if we get a nice move, get a VCP, break the B wave, that's again, just keep it nice and simple. Yeah, that's the way we want to go. Resolute, RSG, I think I spoke about this one. Actually, I said 2 weeks ago, this is sort of one of a few good judges that I knew it suggested the stock was way undervalued here. I know this gold has been moving here, but this has been building nicely for a small. I think raised a bit of capital as well. So, but really starting to get moving here now. So nice little congesting. Probably too small in terms of our normal sort of style, but interesting. SPL is Star Pharma Holdings. So again, in that, just interesting. The small one here getting a bit of traction. The volume's a bit hard to read there. Just that 1 day sort of throwing us out, but yeah, some positivity there. I think yeah, Polynova was on the list. That's still pretty strong. And I think Ramelius there was the last on the list as well. So that, still sort of setting up here. Like some of these golds are still looking pretty firm here, Chris. I mean, I noticed even something like Silver Lake, which I think has been a bit of a laggard, broke out the other day. So look at that, good volume all the way through here, and then pull back on pretty light volume so far. Really, if we see stocks go to a new highs and then they peel back, find support on top of the old high, and then bounce again, that's normally constructive here. So as much as gold's a bit long in the tooth, I think, and probably at risk of some reversal at this stage, there's nothing to suggest that they're finished yet. So me personally, I'll be sort of lightening off a little bit, but still looks pretty constructive there. Okay, number one on the weekly launchpad. So basically, stocks that have moved pretty hard this week. ERA, which is in that sort of uranium move there. So we did speak about Paladin there previously. Deep Yellow, which has sort of popped as well. So some of these stocks are interesting there. MP1, another one that's sort of starting to build here. Did poke its head above that little last high there, but didn't close above it there. So it's just sort of congesting here. So this is sort of one to keep an eye on there. Pretty light volume here so far. So if we see a nice little tight consolidation underneath the high, could be constructive there. I think, if we look at that weekly setup there, that's not bad as well. So that's sort of come back, made a higher low, just starting to build here, second higher low. So sometimes, if you remember back that we talked about the NASDAQ 2002, 2003 there, that was a bit of a building process originally. So, some of these stocks are building. Some of them are a bit more aggressive than others, but yeah. So we're looking for sort of, these stocks will start breaking up now. We're looking for consolidations. We want to see them nice and tight, sort of sitting under the highs and then breaking up there. So, I think we've got to change a character in the market. So starting to see growth stocks outperform. So we had 3 days this week. The NASDAQ outperformed the other indices. We're starting to see a bit of movement and growth. Ampol was sort of one of the big caps here, Chris. It's actually sort of popped here. So had a bit of a breakout there. Gone to a new marginal low here, sort of popped back up into the range. Made a higher low here, starting to get going again. So there's probably one to sort of monitor there, but some okay signs there from one of the bigger caps there. I probably would want to see some sort of more consolidation come back. It wasn't sort of too much in that sort of single figures there. So this might be like a little A, B, C WiseTech. Obviously held up pretty well. It's held up pretty well in that range. So in terms of sort of from the June to September highs there, it's sort of stayed pretty tight in that range. And then what we are seeing here is a bit of volume. So this is sort of somewhat constructive off that level. So one stock that looks all right. Viva Energy, again, this is sort of looking all right too. This whole thing sort of squaring out here. So this is like a VCP in here, Chris, on the larger scale. We looked at the weekly there, nice VCP, and then starting to break up here. And you think about look at that whole corrective there is sat on top of the previous high as well. So that's pretty constructive. Get 1, 2, 3 higher lows in here. So that looks pretty firm to me. So breaking above this breaking above this B wave. So when you sort of see that sort of construction there, get you interested. The fact that it's struggling to go down, each pullback's getting narrower and narrower, getting shorter and shorter. As soon as we break up out of a pivot point there, break above that high there. So you might have got a bit concerned there because you saw a bit of volume there, but it just kept going on the next couple of days. That looks quite good. I mean, another one this was actually one that I traded here, was sort of Worley's. Again, it sort of stayed pretty firm here. It was a pretty bullish move and then sideways correction. Bit of a VCP in here, tighter. So this leg, this this leg, so it all tightened up here. We also call this a little cup and handle in there, or even, as you said, a cup and handle within a cup and handle as well. So, but yeah, once we sort of broke above this little pivot point here, it looks pretty firm. And then the beauty of sort of drilling out to a weekly is you can just see how strong that is. So it's trending up here. So it's impulsive and then corrective, impulsive and then corrective. So this kind of means it's sort of struggling to go down, just having a pause here. What have we done here now? We're basically going to be breaking out to a new week here, new week high. So nothing wrong with that. Looks pretty firm here. So that's the type of thing we're looking for there. And Nicholas Davis would be, calling his broker a few days ago and seeing stocks close at a new high, be instructing his broker to buy that share with a bit of a stop underneath it and let it run. INE was another one on the list, had a bit of a pop there, had a bit of a deeper pullback there. Would like to see something a bit more constructive. I know the stock had a bigger move in the States here, this sort of dual listed thing. So I think it moved twice as hard in the US than it did here. And yeah, sort of come back here. So, but yeah, one just to keep an eye on. I thought Perpetual, okay. I was going to highlight this actually, but I'm too late here. I looked at this yesterday, Chris, and thought it was a little, little sort of cup and handle in here as well. Sort of like just that sort of congestion there, just because the whole thing had tightened up here underneath that high. So we've had a nice bounce here, pulled back, and we saw some pretty decent volume. And then the whole thing's just tightened up here underneath the high here. So I thought, well, any break of that move would be, it's pretty positive there. So it's obviously already popped here today.
So that's the kind of chart that you like to find, is it?
That's just looking for that little, go back and retest the high, some good volumes there. That little congestion. Sometimes that sort of 3 or 4 days congestion there is nice and tight here. That's me sort of covering the list there. I do have one little surprise for the day. I just thought I would show one stock here. I was looking across the biotechs and healthcare stocks. So obviously, that's been a sort of big movement here. So I've just had such a busy week this week. I've sort of had some orders for clients and stuff there, which has sort of kept me busy. So I haven't been able to do my scans as well as I normally can do. But I saw this thing a day late. Yeah. So this thing here was this is Avita. I noticed it's actually listed on as an ADR as well. So that's sort of actually one of the reasons why it sort of caught my attention. But it's come back up to the high here, but really good volume all the way through here, and then stayed under the high, come back in a little 3-wave manner, almost like a little false break in here. So it goes back to a little false break.
In the 50-day.
And then starts to move. Exactly. It's the 50-day and starts to climb here, and then runs again. Some more volume starts to come in here. And then look at this here, little congestion for about 3 days. So that there is what I consider the perfect VCP pattern, because we've got a couple of things going on here. We've got a leading sector. We've gone back to retest the high. We've got good volume. And we've got this little 1, this little 2, and then the little third tightening. So the VCP's given us the little, the 1, 2, 3 tightening pattern, and then just those 2 or 3 days there with no volume underneath the high. That should be, if the viewers ever see a chart like that 3 or 4 days before this happens, please email me. That is the setup we want to be watching for. Because that's the ideal setup. That's our sort of our perfect sort of VCP, leading sector, healthy volume. I unfortunately saw this on this day here, and after it had already sort of broken, and I think it was sort of up to around 236 there. And it just sort of, I worked out my sort of risk reward parameters. I was a little too late there, but that's as good a setup as you'll see there. I mean,
The November to December, there's a VCP that you walk through. But if we take the lens out a little bit further and look from March through to August, sort of one contraction and a bit of a rally, and then
Yeah.
August through November there's a second one, and then the third one, which is the whole VCP that you talked about. So it's almost like a VCP within the bigger VCP.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, the other thing too is this, like a lot of these biotechs, the October low, this was a high low for the market. So, look at Clinuvel, who's been one of the strongest stocks here. That was making higher lows here. This is, it's all textbook sort of stuff here. So when the market's finding a low, we need to identify the stocks and sectors that are making high lows, that are looking the firmest. And this was definitely the one there. I mean, PolyNovo was looking pretty great. I mean, even look at this one as well. This is actually one that I have traded, Chris. I think I might have mentioned this one a while back, but this is like a VCP as well. I don't love this as much as, just because it's probably quite a larger one, so probably bigger on the weekly scale there. And the reason I don't love it much as some of the other ones was that I like to sort of see them sit on top of previous highs. This one has come back underneath the high, which is just a bit of a technicality, but I prefer to see that come back and sit on the high there, and then the space there. But look, that's still a leading sector, still a VCP, still sort of getting constructed, sort of high low, and yeah, so it still looks all right. But some of those stocks have just been unbelievably there. That's the best lesson we can sort of teach the viewers here, is that when the market's finding lows there, so we saw a big deep low in October, all these leaders here, the ones that have gone on the most here, the biggest moves, are the ones that were making high lows at that stage. And that's what the textbook tell us. That's what William O'Neill tells us, what Mark Minervini, all the best traders know this, and that's what they're looking for. So if you want to take your trading to the next level, that's exactly the sort of stuff that you've got to learn. And it might take you years to actually learn this and to actually go through a couple of cycles to actually sort of see this as well. So, we sort of keep learning from that, and that's, as traders there, that's all we can do, is just keep trying to improve. What I would suggest sometimes is, I've started to build a bit of a database of sort of cup and handles, VCPs, false breaks, basically sort of, just build a database of these and go back and just keep refreshing, keep sort of teaching yourself, and just keep improving there. But yeah, interesting week here. Market's pretty strong here. Everyone's waiting for a bit of a pullback there. I'm concerned it's not going to pull back. Oftentimes they sort of can keep going here. But yeah, I mean, I was just saying to you earlier, Chris, that the XJO has got a habit of, once it actually breaks through to new highs like that, it can do this little congestion on the side like that, and then it just sort of punches through here. I mean, so far it's had a chance here to sell off here, and it hasn't done that. The volumes are,
well, the US has fallen throughout that period, hasn't it? But the
exactly. You said a couple of days. That's right. So yeah, it's just still pretty firm here. So just sort of see this little congestion on the side here can continue higher here. So yeah, I just I mean, I'm waiting for a little congestion, sort of safer patterns here, but I'm probably 2/3 long at the moment, and feeling underinvested. So I'm just going to be patient, wait for right setups. Don't rush it here. Don't want to have sort of fear of missing out, which is sort of what a lot of traders will have at the moment, is sort of feeling like the market's going up sort of without them. So it doesn't matter. It's what's more important is to protect your capital, take good trades that meet your risk criteria and your trade criteria. So trade your playbook, trade your risk management. If it doesn't sort of set up here, don't chase. So at some stage we'll have a bit of a cool off there. I mean, it's interesting here. It's actually, so far this market actually is mirroring the 60-year cycle, Chris. So that's sort of,
that's the current playbook. That's running.
Yeah, it's looking very similar to the 60-year sort of setup here at the moment. There's a few cycles I look at follow that. That's the one that's so only one of our cycles actually went sideways over this period. Most other cycles actually went up, but between February and March there might get a little bit more shaky, a little bit more choppy. I think the 60 years sort of did an expansion, so it sort of went up, pulled back into sort of Feb, went to a slight new high, later in Feb, and then found a sort of pull back into sort of early March. So yeah, might just get a little choppy later on, but at this stage we've sort of got some momentum here. It's sort of heading higher here. Yeah, not showing too much weakness there. Everyone's wanting to, I think everyone's underweight too, underinvested as well. So you're not seeing any pullbacks in the Aussie market. Every time you sort of see any weakness, people are just jumping in here. And I've been buying a few stocks for some sort of wholesale clients there, just stocks that that I need to sort of accumulate over a number of days. And it's been difficult to actually to buy those stocks. And a couple of those stocks there, I was on the bid for like an hour and did not get hit. The bid did not get hit for an hour on some of these sort of, less liquid, but sort of still reasonably quality industrials there. But just showing real strength there, the market. So not too many sellers here at the moment. I think everyone's underweight.
Well, it looks like it with that chart roaring ahead, doesn't it? They're underweight and they're playing catch up.
Yeah.
So, well, they're really useful insights, Gary, especially for traders who are looking to take their trading to the next level, understanding setups, breaking down the construction of the base and before it runs, and those pivot points that you're talking about. So they're really useful. Thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
Now, Gary did talk about where he was looking about the 60-year cycles and other parts of the market, talking about where he's looking for longer term or where it's pulling back into February and March. He covers those in more detail on the Tuesday reports. So you can click on the right-hand side to see that playlist. And then also you can click on the right-hand side to understand more of the trading strategies that he's talking about. Gary talked about false breaks, cup and handles, also talking about pivot points. They're also on the right-hand side in the playlist. And then on the left-hand side, you can see Gary's Twitter handle if you want to follow him there.